It makes me intrigued as to what they're looking for in a person as a player for the forward. And Joao Felix obviously is come onto the table because he's actually available. Like if they're looking for a loan, then Joao Felix has to be considered. And of course, the finances involved in this look a little bit ridiculous right now. But how often do you get the opportunity to sign £100 million footballer for half a season? It doesn't happen. I mean, you're looking previously 2 years ago, Odion Ighalo was coming in, and they still had to pay for Odion Ighalo. He wasn't super cheap. He wasn't free to have Odion Ighalo at the club, and he obviously did quite well, to be fair, when he first went in there. But you're now at a situation where United have got the opportunity to sign Joao Felix, whereas 2 years ago they were signing Odion Ighalo. So I think that shows progress, and I think that is promising. And I also think it's something from that sense that you have to take quite seriously. I'll talk about this a little bit more in the Arsenal section, because I do think it's probably more interesting from their point of view. But there aren't any loan players out there, are there? You know that. Like you've even seen Everton are trying to sign Danny Ings on loan, and they can't even do that. So if Danny Ings isn't available on loan or a player of that level, then what chance have you got of signing a centre forward that can genuinely make a difference to Man United's campaign at this point? If Martial could actually stay fit, United actually don't need a centre forward. They've got someone that they're actually quite comfortable with. I know he's not scoring goals right now, but that four that they want in attack aren't actually getting any game time together, are they? So if you're looking the four that they want regularly in that front line would be Anthony, Rashford, Fernandes, Martial. I mean, I haven't looked this up, but they have barely had any game time together at all. There's always someone missing. And I want to see that come together to know how much the need is for Man United to actually sign a centre forward. And I mean, I'm sure you, as a United fan, want to see somebody come in.
Yeah, I think from my standpoint, I look at this situation and I see it's kind of like the missing piece of the way we attack. Rashford's in great form scoring goals when he's playing out wide. And I think statistically he scored quite a lot of goals centrally, but he doesn't play as well throughout 90 minutes through the middle. Anthony started well, it's kind of tailed off, but he hasn't really got a run of games again under his belt since before the World Cup. I'm intrigued to see what Sancho looks like when he returns from his training in the mountains, whatever it is he's doing. United fans are hoping for a resurgence in him. I do think we need that number 9 though, and I think or someone that can play more centrally. And Joao Felix is a great shout. I did read a report this morning from Scott Saunders and Graham Bailey that said we're looking at Memphis Depay, obviously Joao Felix. A name that stood out to me again I would like to see is Olivier Giroud. If there was a way of getting someone like Olivier Giroud in for 6 months, it would be great. There's a Chipper Moting was the funniest one, and I don't know why he always makes me laugh because he was so poor at Stoke, but he's actually had a very good career since then, if that makes sense. But he's kind of one of those players that I don't want to see him. But you sort of think of Depay, you think of Olivier Giroud, you think of Joao Felix, as you've mentioned. I do think if we could bring that kind of individual in, right mentality, right player profile, right behaviors, because that's the thing with Man United right now. And we haven't obviously spoke since the summer because we typically do our shows in transfer windows. The difference in mood, feeling, attitude, behavior at Man United is palpable in 6 months. There's a fundamental difference with what Ten Hag's been able to create because the Glazers have given him the power to control that environment. And yeah, if we can add a good quality player in there who comes in, not just scores goals, but also keeps that mood going, brings in the right mentality. Look, Man United could end up having a very good season this year. There's no doubt about it. But I do worry about the ability to keep scoring. If Rashford goes for a dry patch of goals, I don't know where the goals are coming from right now. And we need to address that. And there's a big Ronaldo-shaped hole that we need to look at. But yeah, Butland, great. But we need more, we need more, Dean. We need more.
No, of course, and I think that's obvious. I mean, what I would say is, if you think back to when United were linked with Marko Arnautovic and the uproar that there was around that, you look back. Since then, this season, Marko Arnautovic has got 8 goals from 14 games. Arnautovic has actually been playing quite well. I'm not saying he was the right man for Man United. I do think that the backlash against it was probably a bit heavy, but it does make you have to consider, is that then going to be back in the thinking again? Is it profile rather than name that Man United are going to be looking for now? Is it a type of figure that they want in that attack? Because Ronaldo wasn't offering much anyway, was he? I mean, we know that, but like he did bring experience, he did bring stature, both physically and like on a mental level too. So when I do keep coming back thinking, well, they wanted Arnautovic. That wasn't just a rumor. They really did consider doing that. So that's what we have to consider. They probably still want a player of that mold if they become available.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think Man United fans, what I would say about United fans now is, again, when I look at the list that was put out there today, is Abu Baker as well. There are players that I don't know that much about, or I'm not keen on, but equally, I trust Ten Hag now.
Yeah.
So if Ten Hag says, I think for 6 months, Olivier Giroud, I'm going to use him as an example, can give us what we want for 6
He ain't going
months.
to join, mate.
No, he probably isn't. He probably isn't. Hypothetically speaking.
I think he's doing okay, yeah. Look, let's look into the not too distant past when they bought Nicola Pepe. Was 72 million pounds they ended up going to on Nicola Pepe. I was stung by that because I didn't believe that Arsenal would agree to something like that. They were eventually stung by it too because he was never worth that money. And this situation isn't a million miles apart because Mudryk, to be honest, isn't really worth this sort of money either. We're getting too high here now, and if you get to £85 million, my hunch on this is you might as well go and get Joao Felix for 6 months rather than get Mudryk at £85 million, because what you're going to get from Joao Felix is genuinely one of the best attackers in European football. He is absolutely unbelievable. He would come into Arsenal's lineup and raise not only the level of that team, but the morale around Emirates Stadium. Can you imagine, like, Arsenal already 7-8 points clear, whatever they end up being, by the time, we're at the back end of January, and they say, okay, here he is, Joao Felix is here. Like, how far have this club come in such a short space of time that they're even actually in this conversation? We were talking like 18 months ago about the fact that Arsenal didn't even know where they could shop anymore. They didn't even know what tier of player they could attract to the club anymore. And suddenly they've got a decision over whether they pursue a player at Shakhtar Donetsk who is probably worth around £65 million, but they might have to pay £85 million for, or they could kind of accept defeat in terms of the loan fee that's on the table for Joao Felix, pay over the odds for a player that could absolutely be a game changer in a title race. And I think that's one of the real defining elements to me here and where Arsenal end up going. When we get to the crunch, if Man City, let's assume that Man City do make up some ground and these two are going head to head to win the title, you're looking at Man City having Haaland, Foden, Grealish, Mahrez, Julian Alvarez, and then you've got like players like Bernardo Silva and obviously KDB that will play in an attacking sense too and help make the difference. And then at Arsenal, you've got Martinelli and Saka, Gabby Jesus when he's back. You've got Nketiah, you've got Smith Rowe, and obviously you've got Odegaard, who at the moment is probably the best player in this division. But you're going to need something else. And Mudryk, what are we getting? What condition is he in? What form is he going to be in? How long does it take him to settle to the environment, to the club, all these different things? Or you get Joao Felix. And Joao Felix could play in a variety of positions. He could play different roles. He can decide games on his own. Personally, my hunch on this is that they should probably look to negotiate the Joao Felix loan fee to get to a place that appeases both, rather than go and spend that extra £20 million on Mudryk right now. I feel like that deal might even still be there in the summer because Chelsea might not follow through with it. And if that's the case, yeah, I just feel like this deal for Joao Felix probably isn't as bad as it seems. I understand like why Arsenal want the loan for Felix put into perspective. And it's the same with Man United. Think of when Romelu Lukaku made his loan move from Chelsea to Inter Milan. I think it was just under 7 million for the entire season. And that's £100 million footballer. I know he wasn't in form, he wasn't in a good place, whatever, but it's a £100 million footballer who's gone for an entire season as a goal scorer, £7 million. And now you've got Joao Felix, who right now is in a better place than Lukaku was then. And you're asking for double the amount of money for half the amount of time. So I can totally understand why this isn't adding up for the clubs. But how often do you get the opportunity to sign a £100 million footballer who is brilliant for 6 months, especially if you're going for a title? It doesn't happen. You can't normally get a £100 million footballer on loan for 6 months.
Sorry, I get that. I want to ask you about the Joao Felix thing. I mean, Arsenal could potentially get both if they're willing to spend the money. The way it reads and the way the stories have come out is that Atty would like to let him go for the right money. The player wants to leave Atty, and the Premier League seems a destination. Arsenal, Man United, seemingly the front two runners. It feels like a deal is expected to happen. Where do you think Joao Felix ends up by the end of January, based on what you've been told and what you've heard?
Should we just go with Chelsea now? I mean, look, it genuinely is up in the air at the moment because of this valuation that's on him. Nobody's going to pay that at the moment, and obviously Man United have kind of made the first steps in towards this deal, and they're not willing to go near. I think it was 4 million or something, which is going to be too low. But personally, I think it's looking like Arsenal or Man United, and then Chelsea. I can't make my way between those. I would say that Arsenal need him more because I think he'll make a bigger impact. I'd say that Man United, it'd be a good move, but I don't think it would be as defining in their season as it potentially could be for Arsenal. Also with Arsenal, with Mudryk, like on that left side, you got Smith Rowe coming back soon. You've got situations that can unfold to help them out. I just feel like centrally, Joao Felix could be so helpful. Could be to United too, but I just feel like Arsenal have the edge.